What's up everyone, MK Tom Brady here. In this video I want to talk about what's next for Mortal Kombat 11. Like, where can the game actually go to keep it going through the next year, maybe year and a half, until NetherRealm moves on to the next title. Because I don't believe it's going to be this year. I think it's going to be more toward when we're more almost out to completely out of this pandemic that we're in now, that we're going to get a new title. So I think for right now, they're sticking with MK11. And of course, I think it's a given that there's going to be a Combat Pack 3. All the Combat Packs sold well. All their, pay for DLC content has done really, really well. I don't see any reason why they would stop now. If you check out the Thinny over on Twitter, he's probably the top data miner for MK11. And it's believed that Combat Pack 3 is going to be 5 characters. There's already select screen icons that they put in the PC version of the game. Those files are in the game like a placeholder for Cyrex, Sector, and Chronica. So I truly believe we're going to get that Combat Pack 3 update. And that will help a little bit. But I mean, just 3.5 months ago, we got 3 characters and custom mode unlocked in competitive modes of play. 6 months before that, we got 3 characters and a story mode expansion and armor break. But that really hasn't helped the game move along smoothly. I mean, just 3 months after getting 3 characters, we're already talking about where's the news? Where are we going to get when are we going to get new content? So even though we're probably going to get 5 characters within the next several months, that I don't believe is going to be enough to keep the game going. The game needs more. It needs to change the actual content to which these characters are going to be added to, which is Mortal Kombat 11 in general. And look, we've already gone through a lot of the problems with MK11, but I want to talk about some solutions, and I don't want to keep rehashing, oh, this is what's wrong with the game. So here is what I truly believe could happen to shake the meta up a little bit, to shake the game up. There are a few things that we've already talked about, such as slotting. I don't believe that they are or should take moves that are 1 slot and say, wow, these moves are really, really strong. Let's make them 2 slots. And then take moves like Raiden's Joe Push and say, wow, this move is really, really weak. Let's make it 1 slot. That's not good enough because, again, making 1 slot moves in a 2 slot is only going to take away from characters, and making you or causing you to do less is just not an answer for the game. So I think making everything 1 slot, and then also revisiting some of the really, really, really crappy 2 slot moves that are now going to be 1 slot and making them a little better, a little more viable, so they're not still just worthless 1 slot moves as opposed to worthless 2 slot moves. I think that off the bat would be a pretty significant power creep for a majority of the cast. Also, some of the banned moves, like take for example Terminator's Terminate. It's already a 1 slot move, so half the work is already done here. And then just say maybe it's active for 3 seconds, maybe 4. I would probably go 3 seconds. And then say after the 3-second time period, he deactivates for 2 seconds and he's open for a combo. And keep the resource, 2 offensive bars, 1 defensive bar. Then a move like this would be allowed in competitive play, and you could make whatever changes you need to make through some of these banned moves to make them all allowable. Then you'll have every move will be 1 slot, so that's fair. Some of the moves that are kind of crappy could get a slight tweak to be a little better, and the banned moves will no longer be banned. And they could even look at some of the moves that have restrictions and kind of tweak them so those moves can coexist. So then you have a massive power creep, I believe, across the entire game, in which more characters can do more and more and more. But that's still not going to be enough. Again, also, as we discussed, taking default moves like Melina Psi and also adding other versions of that. So by default, she would also be able to do low Psi, air Psi, and air telekick without having to select it. So obviously, that would be great. But this still isn't enough. These are all things they can do without actually adding stuff. But the real problem is, to actually change the game, they're going to have to add stuff to the game, not just tweak here, change that, reslot this. New stuff, new moves must also be added to the game. I mean, there's just no other way to really do it. So, for example, let me give you a quick example here. Take Sonya Blade here. Sonya is absolutely boring. I mean, if you watch Sonya, it's rings, 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 rings. Then she gets in close, you know, back 1-2 into rings, back 1-4 into rings. Everything rings, 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 rings. In the corner, 50-50 into rings. That's really what the character is. Very simple. And half of these moves don't even get used. Half of these moves are completely worthless. What they can do is they can either add moves or replace some of these moves or make some of these moves default, like maybe make air, soaring, general, or default, something like that. Whatever they have to do to either clear out some space or just add moves. They could add, like Sonya's got a lot of moves to add. Kiss, leg grab, cartwheel, upward bicycle kick, right? Just move after move after move you can add. She's got like 5 or 6 moves that are legacy that you could add to Sonya. Now, one of the issues would be, well, she has this 50-50, back 1-2, back 1-4. If she had like an amplified cartwheel that launched, or a kiss that stunned you, like amplify for a combo, then she would be doing 50-50s anywhere on the screen. So back 1-2 with hits, confirm in a cartwheel, back or whatever, back 1-4 hits, confirm in a cartwheel amplify or kiss amplify, and then she would just be doing strings in the 50-50s and the full combos in the middle of the screen. What they could do is then, on top of adding new moves, change her back 1-2 into, instead of an overhead, maybe for example, they take that spin punch move from UMK3 right in her combo. In Sonya's punch combo, she has a punch into a spin fist. Maybe take that spin fist and instead of back 1-2 overhead, make it back 1-2 spin fist. Or instead of back 1-4 low, make it back 1-4 and the 4 is something else, right? So then she wouldn't have that 50-50, so she wouldn't be solely around that, and she would have rings, kiss, leg grab, cartwheel, all these moves that you can equip to make more of a Sonya type character. She'd be more interesting, and she would also be more viable as well. Instead of Sonya players saying, I have no mids, I have no this, I have no that, all I'm doing is down 4s, rings, throws, etc. They could do things like this for a lot of characters. Take Shao Kahn, for example, as well. You would have to add stuff to him. Like, you can't just take Shao Kahn and say, buff him up, because you also have to make sure these characters are done right. So, let's just say they added Shao Kahn to have a mid, like a Wrath Hammer, like quick little, the hammer move that he had in previous MK games where he'd, like hit you right over the head with the hammer. But I wouldn't make it an overhead because, again, what you don't need is characters that have overheads and lows. That's not really the answer. All right, so, and maybe non-amplify knocks back and amplify causes a restand, kind of like Cetrion's Tornado. You could also, I don't know, if you want to make the Wrath Hammer an armor break, so he has an armor break restand, much like Cetrion. Maybe not an armor break, but this way, if you go to challenge him, you know, like off forward 3s and that kind of stuff, he could maybe amplify Wrath Hammer for the restand. Like regular Wrath Hammer would be unsafe, and amplify one would be safe, but it's going to cost that bar of offensive meter. But it also gives you the restand and it gives you some safety. Like, you could do things like that. And I think it would work out, and I think that's a good way to make a character like this, as well as some other things. Like, you would actually have to add more, like maybe add his upward knee from other MK games, and maybe add that in the game. But you're definitely going to have to add new content. You're going to have to add moves and change the way certain moves work, change certain normals, maybe give new normals new properties and new animation. It's going to come down to that for this game to really save it. Like a Combat Pack 3, sure, it's going to sell well, but then 2 to 3 months after Combat Pack 3, that's the end. That'll be the end. And then the game will truly die once we know 3 combat packs, nothing more is coming. That's it. So the next patch is pretty much make or break for this game, and it's going to have to be a major one. And I mean, if you guys want, I can do videos on each characters, like what I would do to kind of like add or change the characters one by one to make them a little more viable or a little more fair or whatever it is. If that's something you guys are interested, let me know in the comment section below. But again, this is the only place I see the game going in order to really be able to live through the remainder of 2021 and into a little bit of 2022. But let me know what you guys think in the comments section. I'm always interested to see what you guys have to say. I'm pretty much done with making videos about here are the problems of MK11. I mean, that's all beat into the ground. There's nowhere else to go by just rehashing the same old stuff over and over again. So really, I want to focus on where the game can go from here, as well as videos about other stuff with MK games in general. But again, I'm always curious to hear your feedback. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. And as always, stay tuned for more content.